You're listening to a bored to death Mandocast, talking Disney Plus's show, The Mandalorian, in easily digestible chunks.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and other assorted gender assignations. Welcome back to the bored to death Mandocast. I am Jay Winger, and please welcome back to the Mandocast,
Chris.
Finally freed from quarantine and your little vacation.
Yeah, it's my vacation, my Thanksgiving vacation to Texas to visit my mom, and then when I get back, I spent the better part of almost 2 weeks.
I think it was more like 10 days, like a week and a half.
Yeah, give or take.
But it meant you missed two Mandocasts.
Two Mandocasts.
And I did miss having you here to bounce off of. To that end, this edition of the Mandocast will probably end up being as long as like a Ramblecast because you have 2 weeks worth of talking to catch up on here.
Okay, so let me talk about chapter
13 is the Ahsoka Tano.
Okay, so chapter 13. I was like, the second Ahsoka showed up on screen, the second I saw those white lightsabers show up, I was like, yes!
And I was like, I'm sure you were like me, just like, oh, so we're just leading right into it. Okay.
Yeah. I was kind of curious as to how they were going to bring her in, and it was just like, boom, right at the beginning.
Yep. And it was great.
Oh, yeah, it was a great way to start. For someone who didn't finish her training as a Jedi, she has all the skills of a Jedi.
Well, she basically picked up all the rest of it, in the field, as it were. Practical knowledge.
So we got that. We also found out what Baby Yoda's real name was, which is Grogu.
Yeah, good old Gogurt.
And it turns out he was one of the younglings during the events of Episode 3.
Whilst Order 66 was going on.
Yes, so he was apparently, I don't know, they didn't really say where he was exactly when Order 66 happened, but he managed to get off of Coruscant.
Somebody smuggled him off Coruscant, but we don't know who.
Yeah, so that happened, and so he, I guess, bounced around.
I'm gonna guess it was Yoda.
Turns out he was with the Wookiees and they lost him.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway.
We got that, her saying, oh, well, you need to take him to this planet so he can go onto this Jedi stone, meditate, and then...
Go all Golden Child.
Yeah, go all Golden Child, and we needed more Eddie Murphy in this episode. And so, the events of that episode happened. And by the way, I like how they had Michael Biehn in the episode.
It was like, I don't know Michael Bihn's, I hear the name, it sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't know his face. I know, he was the gunslinger that worked for the Magistrate.
No, he was Hicks in Aliens.
Ah, okay.
He was Hicks in Aliens.
That's one of those I've never actually seen, but that's for another time, anyway.
I think he was also in the first Terminator, but I can't remember
he was. I don't remember who, but I think he was. I have heard his name in connection with the Terminator franchise. It's
like how Lance Henriksen was in the first Terminator also. He was one of the guys in the police station that the Terminator had shot up. Mm-hmm. And so the woman that Ahsoka was after, and I learned this after I watched the episode, is played by a Filipina-American who also just happens to be Bruce Lee's goddaughter.
There you go.
And when I saw that, I was like, oh, this episode just got even more awesome.
We're both idiots. Michael Biehn was Kyle Reese.
Oh, he was Kyle
Reese. Yes. We're both idiots for not knowing that. This is true.
I've seen the original
This
Terminator.
is true. Anyway.
Granted, I know he has that one random cameo in the director's cut of Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I remember. I have seen that scene. That's a great scene. I'm sad that it was cut from the whole thing. But anyway.
Anyways, on to episode 14, where.
Well, wait. Did you remember to mention who the Magistrate worked for?
Oh yeah.
The big name. The big name drop.
So they dropped a really, really big name in this, and
because there was the whole thing where Ahsoka was like, asking for information about the Magistrate's master, And you, like me, I'm sure were thinking Moff Gideon.
Because
he's the guy that's been presented as the leader of the Imperial Remnant that's causing all the problems in the Outer Rim right now.
Yeah.
And then suddenly
she says,
Grand Admiral Thrawn?
And that's when I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, I was the same way. I was like, oh my god.
So that whole line happens, and meanwhile, now it's funny because you saw two different genres in just this one particular scene.
Western and samurai.
You see Western and samurai.
On the opposite sides of the gate, basically.
Exactly.
It's samurai or like Kill Bill with Oren versus the Bride, and on the outside you have your old fashioned Wild Western standoff.
You gotta love that.
It was fantastic.
You gotta love that they're combining genres in this one show.
They're combining four. You've got sci-fi, you've got fantasy. Let's face it, Jedi are essentially mages.
Yes.
And the Force is essentially magic. You got samurai and you got Wild West. only in the Mandalorian would that work.
They make it work very well. They pretty much established the Western bit in the first episode where he shoots the door lock and kills the dude.
Well, especially because of the whole thing that was like a Wild Western saloon brawl, only on a frozen planet. Yeah. Anyway.
So episode 14. I love how he played. I love how
episode 14 was so goddamn good.
Well, first off, I love how when he's circling where this Jedi spot, the stone is, he's circling
henge,
it,
yeah.
and he's just like, well, there's no landing spots close by, so we're gonna have to fly with the windows down. And I'm like, what does that mean? And then you just see him
Gilligan cut.
Baby Yoda, Grogu is...
That's cool. Baby Yoda. You know, we all call him Mando, even though we know his real name. We're still going to call him Baby Yoda.
Is essentially going on a wild ride because he's using the jetpack to get to this spot. Meanwhile, Baby Yoda is sitting there just enjoying it. It's like watching a dog with its head out the window. Ears flapping.
Just like in Season 1 when we see Baby Yoda on the speeder bike with IG-11. When IG-11 is riding into town to save the day and Baby Yoda's just like, hey, with his ears just going wild.
And so he places him on this little rock and he's like, alright, do your thing. And he's just sitting there. He's like, come on, kid, do your thing. And then out of nowhere, he does the whole meditating thing where he's got, he's
literally doing the whole fingers and forefingers into like little like Om sort of thing.
Yeah,
like it's one reason I called it going all Golden Child. He's literally sitting there on the stone with this column of energy going.
Wait, so do you think in the next episode, Mando's gonna go, "Gong, bring me the child"?
God, I hope so.
And so. Now, while this whole thing is happening, he's got the little force shield around him. The second Slave 1 rolled in, I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Every single person watching the episode when Slave 1 showed up, everybody had the same reaction. It's like, oh, shit.
Well, first off, I want to know, where the hell did he keep that ship at? Was it by Jabba's palace
Probably.
this whole time?
And I'm sure he probably spent a lot of time hunting down the Jawas, who probably scavenged the hell out of that thing.
Oh, yeah.
And getting it all put back together. And then it's just sort of like, I need my ship back. Then I'm going to go get my Amma. Because I don't know where my Amma went. Tamir Morrison.
I cannot wait for the Boba Fett spinoff to come in.
Because and we'll talk about all stuff further Star Wars later, but let's continue with this. That'll be in the discussion after.
So, I love how that happened, and then he goes and confronts Boba Fett, not knowing who he is.
Mm-hmm. He just sees some ship showing up, and he's like, it's not coincidence they're here, this is probably bad.
Takes off, and so he's confronting Boba Fett. Boba Fett's just like, look, dude, I just want my armor back.
I want the Amma. You can peel it off my dead body. It's like, not
yours, ass idiot. I want mine back. Meanwhile, he's got Ming Na Wen, or Mulan.
Fennec Shan.
Or Mulan, if you want to call her that. Some people are probably going to be like, oh, racist because she's Asian. No, she voiced Mulan in the
Yes,
original movie.
exactly. Anyway.
In fact, she's the only voice actor for Mulan. So she's out there with a sniper rifle, pointing it at Baby Yoda.
Just sort of like, do as he says or I shoot the boy.
Yeah. So he's like, okay, let's talk.
Let's all just put down our weapons and we can talk this out like civilized people.
Now,
And they do.
they actually are about to talk, and then Imperial transport ship shows up, stormtroopers comes out, and so they're like, all right, we need to take care of this first. So she's sniping them, he's shooting them.
And then he
Boba
goes.
Fett is just standing there, like, with one of, like, the
gaffy sticks.
The gaffy sticks.
Last Mandocast, I mistakenly called it a Jaffy stick because I couldn't remember what they were called, but gaffy stick is what is the name.
But it's one of the weapons that I think the Sand People use. Mm-hmm. And he takes that. He's just like waiting around like the corner of a rock, waiting for a stormtrooper to walk through. The second they start showing up, he just takes that damn thing and starts smacking them around. He actually breaks their armor, and I think he even stabbed one in the middle.
He stabbed one in that first encounter, and then the stormtrooper officer with the red pauldron got one in the chest later. But apparently, what he was doing with that with the gaffy stick is actually based off like a Maori, I think it's Maori, martial art kind of thing.
Oh, I'm not surprised that it's an actual martial art style.
So it's just sort of like he was, getting the cut loose with that thing, and I'm just like, good lord. Especially that shot after that first, him beating him down as he walks off. You see that one stormtrooper just laying there, shattered, like his helmet's all busted, his body is just like mangled. I was like,
mangled, cracked.
I'm just like, I want more of this kind of stuff from Mandalorians against stormtroopers, like with the armor in season 1.
She used a freaking hammer.
Yeah, and he used essentially a big ass stick with a knob on the end.
A pointy knob. And I love how Boba, when he sees the Razor Crest, he sees the side door is open, and he sees his
He's
armor.
just like, fuck this, I'm just gonna go get my ally.
Like, the hell with this. It's like, he goes on over, and that's when I was like, oh shit. What's gonna happen?
Well, he shows up.
He shows up and just
Daddy's home.
And he just starts shooting. Like he like one stormtrooper's like standing right next to him. He doesn't even look at him. He just goes poof.
Well, yeah, that last one after he like sent them all running, one guy was left. He stands up. He just goes bam.
And they get on their little transport ships and they take off. And he targets it, shoots the rocket. Now he's aiming for the left one, but the rocket goes at the right one. Hits that.
So you did notice that little thing. That's it. Yeah.
Hits that. I thought it was a continuity error at first.
And it wasn't until afterwards when Mando's like, "Nice shot." I was aiming for the other one. I was like, "He's got his Jane Cobb going." I was aiming for his head.
And then Razor Crest blows up, which I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah. Again,
that was
every single person watching the episode, I'm sure, had the same reaction when that turbo laser came down and just reduced it to ash.
Like, at first I was wondering where they were aiming at, but then when the Razor Crest blew up, I was like,
"Oh fuck!"
Shit. So, the ship is completely destroyed now, and it's just like completely gone. And then they send the
Dark Troopers.
The Dark Troopers down Iron Man style to. Okay, I gotta admit, Jon Favreau.
Yes.
They all surround Baby Yoda, who at this point is actually exhausted.
Because he's finally come out of force trance or whatever.
They grab him, fly off Iron Man style, back to the Imperial ship, which, again, I'm just gonna crack the joke. Looks like the one from the freaking Spaceballs, but shorter.
It looked like a giant anal plug.
Only when you look at it from that one angle.
This is true, but come on.
And so they take
And
off
Moff Gideon's
flying.
like, yeah, I'm going to shove this anal plug right up your ass.
I love how Boba Fett gets into Slave One and actually goes after them, but then he's told not to shoot at them because they have the kid. He's like, all right, I'll just,
I'll get more info.
I'll
Intel.
just fly out there, get the info, and turn back. I honestly kept thinking he's going to get shot down, isn't he?
Yeah. You're not the only person. I thought that too, but Nope.
He sees the ship, goes, okay then, turns around.
He's just like, nope.
And I love how Mando says, okay, well, you got your armor back.
I guess we're even.
And he's like, nope. I said that I would help you until
I would see to the safety of the child.
He's like, well, the child's gone. He's like, so we got to keep going then.
So then, until the child is safely back in your care, we are in your debt.
And so they go back to the planet from the first episode.
Navarro. Back to Navarro.
And they get
Cara Dune.
Cara Dune, thank you. They get Cara Dune, and she's like, "Oh well, I mean, I'm a marshal. I can't really."
I have rules I have to follow now.
I have my own set of rules now that I have to follow now. And then Mando goes, "They took the kid," and that's when she gets that whole.
You son of a bitch! I'm in.
Boom! That's it.
Well, no, you forget the other thing that he went to her for. Now that she's marshal, she has access to New Republic records.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, "I need you to look up a prison record for me."
Wait, isn't that the guy?
It's Mayfeld from the prison.
The guy from
Bill Burr.
Well, no, it's the guy with the robotic arm.
With the little side gun, yes.
Okay, because I was like, I know he's from that episode, but which character was he again?
It's Mayfeld, Migs Mayfeld. They finally gave us his first name. But here's the thing: if we're about to go see Mayfeld, you wonder if the other two, Berg and what's her face are there.
We're getting Clancy Brown back.
Please, I want to see him go ham on something.
I want to see him just beat the shit out of some stormtroopers like he did that droid.
Yeah, or somebody shoots some flames in his face and him just walking through it. And it's like, I was born from this.
I was born in the flames. I didn't see cold until I was a man.
You merely adopted the flames. I was born in it. But so chapter 15, which we're about to lead into, we're now a day after everybody else. Mm-hmm. This is because scheduling. You had work yesterday, and I was ears deep in Cyberpunk. But from what I've seen online, this episode is called The Believer. And from what I don't really know anything else. I've seen still images, but I'm not paying attention. But I just saw that the episode's called The Believer. Disney Plus just gives a synopsis as, to move against the Empire, the Mandalorian needs the help of an old enemy. Well, we know that's Mayfeld. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think we've talked about enough about the last couple episodes and your impressions on them. I know that you enjoyed them because we did talk about it briefly after you got back.
Oh my god, I look like. I know you're not a South Park fan, but for those of you who know what I'm talking about, the episode of South Park where the whole internet was having trouble, and then there was the one scene where Stan's dad finally got access to a computer and watched porn, and all you see is him laying in his own mess afterwards. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, because there
was a lot less sticky.
And this is something I commented on while I was on the previous Mandocast. I love how they're recanonizing stuff.
Yes.
But, Grand Admiral Thrawn, well, that's less recanonizing and sort of bringing him into live action. But the Dark Troopers was from Star Wars Dark Forces, the first Kyle Katarn video game.
I keep thinking that they're from Rogue One.
Well, those are the Death Troopers. Maybe they're similar, maybe the Death Troopers were the thing that led into the Dark Troopers. I don't know.
They have a similar design.
But also Tython, the planet that they went to, was the tutorial planet from Knights of the Old Republic, or one of the New Republic or Old Republic games. Huh. It's where you started out as a Jedi. It's the tutorial level. So it's they're recanonizing all this stuff from the Legends continuity, and I love it.
Well, I also love how, and I missed this at first, but somebody pointed out that the owl from Star Wars Rebels,
yep,
has a cameo.
Morai, yeah, in the Jedi, yeah, right before Mando meets Ahsoka.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot to mention this. I love how the only two things that, well, one I'm not surprised of, but the only two things that survived from the Razor Crest being destroyed was that fucking knob
and the Beskar spear.
Well, I understand why the spear would survive because if it can survive a freaking lightsaber, then it can survive.
And that the Beskar spear is going to come into play when we get Gideon versus Mando. Because it's going to be Darksaber versus Beskar spear. And it's going to be awesome.
Yes, it is.
But the knob, well, you saw that, like, it wasn't like everything got reduced to ash, but it was like only small things really survived. I guess that knob was small enough. And, of course, let's face it, we knew it was going to survive. It's the trust object between him and Baby Yoda.
See,
There's going to be some scene, I'm guessing either this episode or in the season finale, when Mando catches up to Baby Yoda, and Baby Yoda's going to be all, like, weak, barely conscious, or whatever, and Mando's going to hold it up. It's like, you know, and...
You want it, you got to come and get it.
Yeah, and it just gets yanked out of his hand by Baby Yoda. Oh, and furthermore, talking to Baby Yoda, him going ham on the stormtroopers.
Yeah, but it seems like every time he uses the Force, it weakens him.
Well, remember, Ahsoka basically said that since Order 66 went down, which was, what, like 25 years before now?
Yeah.
Baby Yoda has been suppressing his Force powers to keep himself seeming harmless and to avoid notice. So his Force powers are weak. You know, that's why he wears himself out really quickly.
Yeah, it's kind of like the... can't think of the character's name, the one that you play as in Jedi Fallen Order.
Cal Kestis.
Yeah, he doesn't reveal himself as not really a Jedi, but as a Force user.
As a Padawan, yeah.
Yeah, till he has to whip that lightsaber out.
Well, there were other things besides that where he did sort of use his Force powers, but it was the lightsaber moment that sort of exposed him for what he was. And well, I'm talking to Cal Kestis. I haven't finished Fallen Order, but from what I've heard, he survived the events of that game.
Yeah, he did.
So he could potentially turn up here as well.
I'm honestly thinking that if they do introduce Thrawn in the next season, he's probably going to have Ezra Bridger as a prisoner. And
that's why Ahsoka is looking for Thrawn. Because I guarantee you that's why she's looking for him.
In that case, they need to bring what's left of the Ghost crew into this.
Yes! At any rate, we've rambled now for almost 23 minutes, so let's go ahead, pause this here, and we'll see you after the episode.
Hey, while we're watching this episode, you should go ahead and toss us a like and subscribe. If you want to reach out, do it via our social media on Facebook or Twitter at BTD_Bingecast. The Bored to Death clan is part of the CKCC Radio podcast tribe, including J Bunny's Music Hub, the Race Nerd Podcast, Real Paranormal Talk, Ranking Tracks, Motivational Moves, Girls Who Like, and The Nerd Table. Imperial credits may not be worth much, but remember to support CKCC Radio on Patreon. I have spoken.
And we're back.
So, after another explosive episode.
Yes, indeed. So Mayfeld got some actually decent character development, I would say, or at least for some exploration as to why he's ex-Imperial sharpshooter.
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I kept thinking he was gonna get killed in this episode.
Me too. Because, let's rewind a little bit. We open up with essentially a junk planet, scrapyard, whatever, where Mayfeld is working out his sentence doing labor, just dismantling old Imperial ships and whatnot. And then Cara Dune shows up because she's a marshal now, and she's basically like, he's remanded into her custody, and she's like, come on. And when he sees Boba Fett walking down from the Slave One
with his pristine armor,
yeah, it cleans up nice, fresh coat of paint and everything. He's like, Mayfeld made some comment. It's like, I thought it was going to be some other grumpy guy in armor or something. And then Mando walks down, and Mayfeld's face is literally just like, oh, fuck. They basically explain what they want him for. He's like, can I just go back to the labor camp?
Like, no, I don't want to do that.
Because they mentioned Moff Gideon. He's like, you should have just left me in the prison. And he basically says, yeah, I do have the codes that you could use to find out where his coordinates are, but I'd need an internal Imperial terminal to do it. And he says, I know that there's one at this secret mining base on Morak, which is basically just jungle world.
It literally looks like what did you call it?
The rundown.
Yeah, it looked like the jungle from the rundown. So South America.
Yep, very South American, and essentially the gist of the plan is they hijack a transport that's taking this highly explosive material to the refinery.
It's like in those video games where it's like you have to like drive the vehicle with the highly explosive crap in it, and you have to drive very, very gently. And it's one of those parts of the game where you're just like, this is bull crap.
All you had to do was follow the damn train, CJ. Well, fortunately, they didn't have to do any of that. But it's like they hijacked the transport. But Mayfeld basically explains they're gonna scan your face or they scan your DNA when you come through the gate. So, and that basically means Cara Dune can't go because she's New Republic, and she'll be flagged in their database for that. Fennec is wanted by ISB, essentially Imperial security sort of thing, which is ISB was what Thrawn is, and what Gideon is. So it's like, as Mayfeld explains, all of these remnant bases are run by ISB. So it's like Fennec can't go. And when Mando turns to Fett, it's like, Fett, and it's like, let's just say they'll know my face.
Nice little reference to Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, sorry about that. If there was any noise there, the laptop just decided to go into sleep mode for some reason. Anyway, and so Mando's like, I'll go, but and he literally just, because he looks through his helmet's thing and realizes, oh, the drivers are wearing helmets, so I can go without having to show my face. But that led into an interesting little discussion. Well, very one-sided discussion, I should say, that went on between Mando and Mayfeld while they were driving.
Yeah, where he was asking him about the whole not taking your helmet off thing.
Is it a case of you can't take the helmet off, or is it a case of you can't show your face? Because they're not the same thing, as he puts it. And he also talked about how, at the end of the day, that they're alike. It's like everybody has lines that they won't cross until they get desperate.
Yeah, and I think he crossed the line in this episode.
Well, he did, but at the same time, Mayfeld sort of, later on, Mayfeld then sort of gave him an out, just like, I never saw your face.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like IG, what was it, IG-11?
Yeah, it's just like, I'm not a living thing.
Yeah, where he's like, no living person has seen my face.
No living thing has seen my face.
Seen my face in X amount of years, and he goes, oh, well, I'm not alive.
But, so while they're driving this transport, pirates essentially strike.
Yeah, and I was trying to see if whether or not, they were, a species or a group of pirates or whatever that had previously been shown, whether it was in Clone Wars or Rebels.
No. Didn't look familiar at all.
And I was honestly hoping it was Hondo's guys.
Right? Right? God, I was just having the same thought. Imagine if it had been Hondo. But these pirates, they're not interested in stealing the cargo. They're interested in destroying it. Just literally, they hop aboard, they pry open the containers, drop a thermal detonator in.
Which, to be honest with you, kind of defeats the purpose of them being pirates, because pirates steal. And I kept thinking...
Well, but, that they sort of touched on that briefly as well when they drove through that village, and Mayfeld made some comment to the effect of that we're the invaders.
Yeah. Them. Well, that line is, in a way, was also in Solo, the planet where Han met Chewbacca on. Han asked, "What are we doing here for?" And they said, "Oh, to bring peace to the galaxy." And he goes, "So we're the invaders, right?" It was essentially like that.
Well, and they're also somewhat similar to the Tusken Raiders back in the first episode of the season. It's like, or no, it was previous season when they were on Tatooine, and he explained to what's his name, Toro.
Yeah, the guy that he gave the binoculars away from.
Yeah, it's just sort of like to them, we're all outsiders. Yeah. It's like, it doesn't matter if you were born on the planet. You're not one of them. You're the invader.
I don't know. Mando seems to get along with them perfectly fine.
Well, yeah.
But, I mean, he knows sign language.
Yeah, that helps. But so I take it that they're more the quote unquote pirates we saw were more like freedom fighters, just trying to deny the Empire the stuff that they're stealing from their planet, essentially.
Yeah.
But Mando fights them off while they're jumping on board with spears and stuff. And we both saw the Mad Max comparison right away. We were both like, witness! But Mando fights them off. Two other transports that we heard about got blown up before they started attacking theirs. And they're just about to cross the bridge to the refinery. And it looks like a huge swarm of them are about to overtake them. And then TIE fighters to the rescue.
Yeah, it's probably the only time you'll ever say, well, I'm glad to see those.
Well, even Mayfeld made some comment about that as after the pirates have been driven off and they're driving the transport into the refinery. You see a whole bunch of other stormtroopers and workers all like applauding and saluting them as they're passing. And
it's like, yeah,
Mayfeld made some comments like, bet you've never been so glad to see stormtroopers before, huh?
Stormtroopers and sandtroopers from Rogue One.
Yep. And so they're greeted by everybody, and then Mayfeld's like, all right, there should be a terminal in the officers' mess. They head over that way.
Oh yeah, and mind you, the majority of the time he has his helmet off because he uses
I can't see in these things.
Yeah, I can't
see. Well,
this
no, he also made some comment about how much it smelled from the previous guy.
Yeah, because he was just like, because, when they steal the outfits, which, by the way, Mando walked away to go change so that way nobody could see him.
Yep.
And then while Bill Burr was changing, he was commenting on the fact that the guy smelled and was sweating inside.
It's like the gloves are still wet, which is just ew. But so that makes sense why he would take off the helmet. Meanwhile, Mando's like, I wear this shit all the time. I wear a helmet and armor and stuff literally all the time. This
ain't nothing.
This ain't nothing. Yeah, I live with my own stink every single day. But so they go towards the officers' mess, but Mayfeld stops because he recognizes an officer in there as his former commanding officer. It's like
I recognize him too, but I recognize the actor.
Yeah, and Mando's like, here, I'll do it. Or it's like, you can still do this. It's like, no, they need to scan your face. And Mando's like, I'll do it. And we were both like, what? Oh, what? And, thinking it needs to compare your face to the registry to make sure that you are authorized to access the information. It wasn't until later I was like, oh, no, it's more just taking a snapshot for the record. Here's who has accessed that information. But Mando takes a little data stick, goes over to the terminal, and has to take his helmet off. So there's Pedro Pascal.
At first he tries to do it with the helmet on, but then a little security alarm pops up, and then he's like, oh, shit.
Yep.
Takes the helmet off, does the scan again, then it's like, all right, you're clear.
Well, yeah, it's literally like, all right, we got your face. Here's the information that you asked for. And meanwhile, that officer has glanced over and finally calls over to him. It's like, trooper. And he's trying to ignore him. And it looks like he's about to get made when Mayfeld walks over, gives some excuses like, sorry, he's, got a little hard of hearing from all the blasting and everything today or whatever. And so I was like, what's your name, trooper? And they're still trying to, BS their way out of this when the officer's just like, aren't you the two that got the only transport back today? And they're like, yes. It's like, join me for a drink. And as soon as they were sat down for a drink, I'm like, this is going to go wrong. Because you could tell Mayfeld did not want to be there. But it wasn't because he was scared of being made. But exactly. Although there was some of that. It was because as we found out, this guy was involved in some dark shit.
So, I mean, granted, the actor, oh God, what's his name? Richard Brake, who plays the Imperial officer.
Creepy-looking guy.
Yeah, for one thing, he's a creepy-looking guy. I imagine that he's not a creepy guy at all in real life. I imagine he's probably one of the more, like, the nicer guys around. Like,
yeah.
The guy definitely has, you know, that reputation behind him because a lot of the roles that he gets are usually involving, you know, like...
playing bad guys or heavies and stuff like that.
Serial killer or something like that. Like, he was in...
He's a character actor.
Yeah. He was in Rob Zombie's 31, where he was, like... one of like the killers in that film, which he played very, very well. So he played an Imperial officer very, very well. Mm-hmm. So I'm honestly wondering, like, what kind of dark shit did you do?
Well, we heard some of that when he's pouring them both a drink. He's like, "What should we toast to? Don't give me any of that, you know, for health or whatever, and none of that trite stuff." And then Mayfeld goes, "How about to Operation Cinder?" And as soon as he said that, I'm like, this is where it's going to start to go bad.
And even Mando looks over at him like, don't do this.
Mando just glances over and gives him a very subtle shake of the head, just sort of like, he could tell Mayfeld was about to unload. And it was like, this is not a good idea. And the officer just sort of plays off like, here's a man who knows his history. And Mayfeld's like, it's not much of my history. I was there. I lived it. You know, he mentions burning something. As like a specific day of this campaign, or of this operation, and it's like tens of thousands of people were like an entire city was like burned or something or destroyed, and Mayfeld is like talking about it's like all the guys I served with, all those civilians, women and children, and the officer is just playing it off just as it's, for the greater good sort of thing.
Yeah.
And makes the comment, it's like, comments about how the New Republic is in disarray. They're not able to sort of maintain stability and everything. And made a comment about how what they're going to do, the remnant is going to make the people beg for the Empire back. And he says like what people think they want freedom, but what they really want is order. The old security over freedom kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which always gets brought up whenever the Nazi comparisons are going to get made. And the whole time you could tell Mayfeld was just barely holding it together. And finally he just bam! Shoots the guy in the chest.
Shoots him at point blank range and literally sends him flying back. And then he sees like the sand trooper that's just staying to the left with a tray in his
It's just
hand.
like, the fuck? And he just bam! Shoots him as well.
And then he shoots everybody in the room.
And then hands Mando his helmet, and just goes, "Here, I never saw your face."
He literally looks away too. He's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. You never took this off."
And you can see Mando looking at him immediately with new respect in his eyes. But and then they had to shoot their way out of there. Meanwhile, Cara Dune and Fennec are up on the ridge overlooking the refinery, literally just picking guys off. Taking out the AA guns and taking out any other troopers that they see.
And then when they got to the roof, that's when they called Boba Fett to come on in and pick them up.
And the Slave One, and as they hop onto the Slave One, Mayfeld turns to Mando and says, "Pass me that rifle," and he hands him like
the scrawny ass rifle, by the way.
Yeah, Cyclo rifle or something. I think he called it. But he takes it, sights on the tanks of the material of the resource in the transport that they just brought. Because the container was still open from when it got pried open by that guy.
And one shot.
And he just bam. Blows up that thing, and because, again, this is a highly volatile material, and this is a refinery full of it, boom! Big-ass explosion. And even Cara Dune was like, that was a nice shot.
And so, I love this, because we were guessing on what kind of armaments
the Slave One has
had since Boba Fett took over the ship from Jango.
And we made some comment about, it's like, where did he have that? Well, I think that was in the first thing. It's like, where did he have Slave One all that time while he was...
was that thing parked by Jabba's palace this whole time?
And how did it avoid getting torn to bits for scrap by Jawas, like they did to the Razor Crest, given the slightest opportunity?
I'm honestly wondering if there were like predators of some sort that were nearby.
Maybe. But regardless, so Slave One is flying off with a couple TIE fighters chasing it.
Yeah, they're climbing up, and that's when he preps a bomb to drop between the two TIE fighters. And if you remember in Attack of the Clones, when Obi-Wan Kenobi was chasing Boba and Jango, and then Jango tells Boba to launch one of those bombs,
one of those mines, essentially,
and it detonates the exact same way and destroys a bunch
with
of
looks like a puff and some silence, and then bong.
It's like a shockwave. It's like a little mini shockwave.
But it goes lateral. It doesn't go all directions, just lateral. But it went off and just both TIE fighters.
Both TIE fighters gone. Just completely gone.
And then, they touch down to pick up Cara Dune and Fennec, and Mayfeld's just sort of like... he made a comment to Mando about why he shot the refinery. It's just so I can sleep tonight, kind of thing. And which goes back to their conversation earlier in the episode when he was drawing comparisons between the two, and there are lines we don't cross. It's just like, at the end of the day, if you can still sleep, then you're doing better than most people. And so he just sort of like nods to Mando, and he turns to Cara Dune and is like, "All right, officer," just sort of holds his wrists out like he's getting ready to be cuffed again.
Take him back in. And then she goes...
She turns to Mando, and it's just sort of like...
I don't know. I think he died.
Well, it's a shame. It's a real shame that Mayfeld didn't make it out of the refinery alive. And he's like, immediately a defensive, like, wait, what? And Mando's like, yeah, it is a shame. And she's like, yeah, prisoner 34667 never made it out of there alive. Yeah, it's a real shame. And then his face starts lighting up, just sort of like, oh.
But then he starts wandering off.
And he turns around, looks like...
he turns around thinking that they're going to shoot him in the back.
Because, well, let's face it, Empire.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, he had some Imperial commander, maybe even the guy that he shot in the back, did that same thing. That he shot, rather, in the officer's mess. May have done the exact same thing, which is why he was immediately like...
So, he...
They just let him... They turn him loose.
Yeah, they just let him loose. He went about his own way. And then...
She's like, turns to Mando's like, so what's the next plan? What's the plan?
And then we see Moff Gideon's ship, Spaceball 2. They're like, you have a message for you, sir? And then Mando's image pops up, and he's like, you have something that I want, something that's near and dear to me, and I'm coming for him.
Yeah, basically, he not only that, he throws Gideon's own line from season 1 when he confronted them in Navarro after he shows up in his TIE fighter and touches down. It's like, you have something that I want. You may think you know what you have, but you do not. It is more precious to me than you will ever know. And it's literally, he throws those same lines back at him. He's like, and I'm coming for him. And you can see Gideon was both just sort of like, all right, so that's how it is. And also just like, fuck. Because, let's not forget, he was there when Mandalore burned.
Yes.
He probably knows exactly what Mandalorians are capable of when they have nothing to lose.
So, do you think we're going to get Bo-Katan?
I hope so. Bo-Katan showing up, because you know that she wants Gideon also, because she wants the Darksaber.
Yes.
And
I can't remember, what was the Darksaber for? Wasn't it like to unify all of Mandalore?
It is the symbol of the ruler of Mandalore. The person who possesses the Darksaber is traditionally the person who rules Mandalore.
And she wants it back to...
Because, if you'll remember, when it was brought up in the previous series, it was held by Paz Vizsla, or Pre Vizsla, rather.
Yeah.
Because he saw himself as as the true ruler of Mandalore, even if he didn't really have any claim to it. He held to like the old ways, hence why he had the Darksaber. And Bo-Katan used to follow him, so she also sort of believes in that symbol of authority. Maul taking it when he sort of unleashed his little shadow coup on Mandalore was a symbolic gesture. It's just sort of like, now I'm the one in control.
Which he was until Ahsoka showed up.
Yep, but it still ended up, I think, in Bo-Katan's... No, it wasn't. It was still with... I think it was still with Maul, but then Sabine got it and used that to challenge her mother to basically force her clan into supporting the rebellion or whatever. But then, it was returned to Bo-Katan after that. And then next thing we know, we as viewers know, it turns up in Gideon's hand at the end of season 1. So a lot of people, I'm sure, were scared. It's like, oh my God, is Bo-Katan dead? Fortunately, we now know she's not. Yeah. But it's still, she's gunning for it because she wants to get that back. For symbolism more than anything else.
I like how Bo-Katan is after Moff Gideon because she wants the saber back. Ahsoka is after Thrawn
for Ezra.
Yeah. Well, that's what we think.
I'm pretty sure that's why she's looking for him.
It's gotta be the reason why, because there's no other reason why she will be going after him.
That said, I am concerned a bit for Ezra's well-being, because I'm pretty sure Dr. Pershing, when we saw that holo of him when they stormed the base on Navarro, I'm pretty sure he made some comment about... Well, no, I may be misremembering and thinking of the test subjects that they were experimenting on for whatever reason, and because they didn't take enough of the blood. But I'm just imagining, did they conduct tests with other Force sensitives that they knew were Force sensitive, that they knew were Jedi or had the potential to become Jedi? And if so, is Ezra safe? Or is he not? Or is he in some tank with a bunch of tubes hooked up to him so they can pump his blood out?
Oh, like what? What's his face was in the Bad Batch episode.
No, well, in his case, it wasn't so much so they could pump blood out of him, so much as that they could,
his knowledge.
Yeah, tap into his brain to get Republic codes. But yeah, I'm concerned for Ezra's well-being. But while we're on the subject of the Bad Batch, we hinted at it in the intro. Let's talk about the Star Wars franchise as a whole, because as we record this on the 12th of December, some news recently broke about Lucasfilm and the Star Wars series.
Yeah, they announced a whole bunch of new material coming out. One of them is being directed by Patty Jenkins, who directed the movie Monster and the 2 Wonder Woman films. She is apparently directing Rogue Squadron.
Rogue Squadron, for those of you who may not be aware, are like the iconic X-Wing and new, Rebels / New Republic pilot squad. They're like the elite of the elite.
And if I remember correctly from the games, I think Wedge Antilles was
He was a member and ended up, I think, becoming the leader of Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And Rogue Squadron, let's also point out, took its name from Rogue One, because Rogue One were the whole rebellion knew that Rogue One was the crew that went and essentially sacrificed themselves at Scarif to get the Death Star plans out and help the rebellion turn the tide, restore hope to the galaxy, etc.
There was another.
So Rogue Squadron named themselves after Rogue One in their honor.
There was one where I was really confused by the name of it. Supposedly it's about Darth Plagueis. It's called The Acolyte. But the title doesn't really say much to me. it's being called a TV mystery thriller from Russian doll creator Leslie Headland, and it's set during the High Republic era. So this is what it says. The official Star Wars website explains that the series is a mystery thriller that will take the audience into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emergency dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. And that's about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so among other things that has been confirmed as happening with Star Wars, we've got
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
We've got Kenobi series. We already knew about that.
Which they announced Hayden Christensen is coming back as Darth Vader for that.
Or at least or is going to be in the...
He's going to be Darth Vader in it.
That's awesome.
There's the Ahsoka.
That's only because David Prowse is dead, so... yeah, let's face it.
Anyway. I don't really know if Hayden is about his height or not, but hey, camera angles.
But it doesn't matter. Him in the suit is all well and good. Awesome. Of course, we have to have James Earl Jones providing the voice.
Of course.
Because otherwise, it's just not Darth Vader.
I mean, if not, then the guy who voices Vader in the Force Unleashed games.
Yes.
Because while he's not James Earl Jones, he actually did a really good job voicing Vader in those games.
But other stuff, they confirmed an Ahsoka Tano series is in development.
Yes.
There was something about the New Republic. What was... I literally just had it up. Rangers of the New Republic.
Yes, which I want to know what that one's about.
Andor, which is going to be about Cassian Andor from Rogue One.
Yeah,
prequel to it.
Series.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. The Acolyte mystery thriller series. A droid story.
Yeah,
3PO and R2.
Apparently that's supposed to be an animated series.
Makes sense. Yeah, and there's like a whole bunch of stuff like that, and I'm just like, I'm all for it. But more to the point, there was that news article or that YouTube video about the news article you sent me about Jon Favreau.
I'm just gonna go ahead and read the title, the headline for it. It says Jon Favreau, new Lucasfilm president. So apparently,
right there tells you all you really need to know.
So apparently, Kathleen Kennedy, once her contract is up, because Disney does not want her back. Apparently, Jon Favreau is taking over because I was watching on the same site or the same account on YouTube of them talking about Kathleen Kennedy with the sequel trilogy. Basically, it's like her fingerprints are all over it.
Yeah. Which is a major reason why the sequel trilogy failed.
It started off good.
I'm not disputing that it probably made them a lot of money, but there are very few people I know that will defend the sequel trilogy. I liked Force Awakens. I actually didn't think Last Jedi was that bad, but it's like it started coming apart at the seams with Rise of Skywalker.
Because apparently in Rise of Skywalker, they were going to develop more of the Ben Solo character in that film, but Kathleen Kennedy had pretty much all of the development scenes taken out.
And, I mean, part of the problem that the sequel trilogy had was that they had no vision for the whole thing as a get-go. They just developed 7 and then 8 and then 9 completely independently of one another. They didn't have an overarching like character arcs, story arcs, anything like that. And as a result, it just started falling apart.
From what I've heard,
I know that that's how the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy essentially were made, but that doesn't mean that it had to continue that way with the sequel trilogy.
I mean, I know that George, in terms of when Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones came out, I think he learned a little bit in terms of how he should do Episode 3 after doing those two, and that's the reason why Episode 3 was given the PG-13 rating. So, like, all the other Star Wars films didn't have PG-13 rating. Revenge of the Sith was the first one to get it. And so I think he kind of learned, it's just like, okay, well, how can I make the third part of the prequel trilogy better. Which, in my honest opinion, Revenge of the Sith is the best one of the three.
Not that that's a high bar to meet.
No, granted, I liked Attack of the Clones. I think Attack of the Clones improved greatly upon all the mistakes that were made in Phantom Menace, in terms of, like, story, character development, and all that. Granted, I know that they reduced Jar Jar Binks' role greatly in Attack of the Clones.
And then even further in Revenge of the Sith,
yeah,
where he had like one line, and it was so quick and so quiet you could probably miss it.
And I know that in the Clone Wars show, Jar Jar did have his own episodes in that one. But for the sequel trilogy, it seemed like it was more of like Kathleen Kennedy wanting to... It's like, this is what I want to see in a Star Wars film, not what the audience wants to see.
Yeah.
Like, from what I heard, J.J. Abrams, when Last Jedi came out, was actually really disappointed in that film because he originally envisioned for the trilogy, who Rey's parents were going to be. Like, he had his own version of how the trilogy was going to be, but then after Force Awakens came out and he stepped away from being the director for Last Jedi, that's when things started going downhill, and that's when he was essentially struggling to fix the mistakes that Last Jedi made in Rise of Skywalker.
And having the same director across all three movies might have helped. It might have helped. With Kathleen Kennedy constantly getting her fingerprints all over it, we don't know for certain. And
the one thing that I've learned about J.J. Abrams, he loves Star Wars. He grew up loving Star Wars. He's not really a Star Trek fan, so hence the reason why in his in the first two Star Trek films that he did
of the Kelvin timeline.
Yes, so for Star Trek 2009 and Into Darkness. One of the things that he openly said was he said that he did not understand the reason why the fans loved the ship so much, loved the Enterprise so much. He's like, it's not a character. To us, the Enterprise is a character. Probably one of the absolute saddest scenes you will ever see in terms of like character deaths in the movies was watching the Enterprise blow up and search for Spock.
And blow up and go fall burning towards Genesis, yeah.
Yeah. So for us, that was a very sad scene, and the same thing goes with like any other time that you see one of those ships get destroyed, like the Enterprise D in Generations, the Defiant in Deep Space Nine when that was destroyed. Granted, yes, we all know that the ships were replaced somehow with the Enterprise being replaced with the Enterprise A, D with E, the Defiant being replaced by another Defiant class where they were given permission to change the name to Defiant because that's what they were used to. But JJ is more of a Star Wars fan, so I know that when he became the director for Force Awakens, that was like a dream come true for him.
I'm sure it was.
So I imagine that the second he got the job, he started working on his own trilogy storyline, and then Rian Johnson went and put his own touch on the Star Wars movie. Which, to be honest with you, I feel like if Rian was given his own Star Wars film to do that had nothing to do with the trilogy,
it had nothing to do with the Skywalker saga.
Exactly. It probably would have been amazing.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
But I guess...
And I want more Star Wars story type movies. Like Solo wasn't perfect, but I liked it. Rogue One was great. And I've said this before. I want more Star Wars stuff that doesn't just focus on like the whole light side, dark side, Jedi, Sith. It's whatever.
That's the reason why, like I said, why I liked Solo so much is because there were no Force users at all. You could say the same thing about Rogue One, but Vader.
Yeah.
But Vader had all told like.
Well, and Rogue One was very much Skywalker saga adjacent.
Yeah.
It was still tied into the whole thing.
Like you finish it, you pop in the original.
Exactly. But with the sheer scope of the galaxy and everything, and being able to see more of the small scale stuff. As I've said before, with regards to the Mandalorians, one reason I love this series is that it's giving us more a sense of what it's like to live in this galaxy, without just seeing all the stuff that's just war scene after war scene after war scene. Granted, yes, Star Wars, but being able to see that there are people that put some thought into here's how people would probably live on this planet doing this sort of thing.
Well, it's like what's her god damn it, I'm drawing a blank on his name now. From Rogue One, her dad, when he left the when he left the Empire and essentially became a farmer. And
it's like you see that there's a lot of that on a lot of different planets. People are farming various different things, whether it's moisture or it's blue prawn things that they turn into blue vodka. Because essentially that's what they're doing with it, is they're making that spotchka drink. Or they're farming various like other vegetables and stuff for processing to ship off somewhere else. It's like there is a lot of that stuff, but it's not all just like industrialized kind of thing. You see a lot of the like people just living basic lives.
Yeah,
sort of
which
thing.
is nothing wrong to see.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to see the people who are just like, I don't want to have anything to do with this. It's just like, I just want to live my life.
It's like, I don't care about your empire or your republic. I just want to live on my farm and be left in peace.
Which, again...
No, yeah. Essentially that's what the Tusken Raiders want, is they just want to be able to live in peace on Tatooine with their banthas, and every so often, I guess, go try to kill a crate dragon so they can get a pearl.
That's a group effort for the whole planet. I mean, if something's big enough to eat a Sarlacc, there's a problem.
It's as Qui-Gon said in Episode 1. There's always a bigger fish, which just makes me think, what? Okay, so what is bigger than a crate dragon?
That fucking worm from Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, I'd forgotten about. Yeah, I forget what it's called, but I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
It's like the cave was
but then, what's bigger than that?
The Death Star.
And what's bigger than that? Star Killer Base.
What's bigger than that? The explosion.
And here's where I'm sure, like, Star Trek nerds would probably point to. There's a being called Abeloth in some of the Star Wars novels. That's essentially like Eldritch Abomination in Star Wars.
Oh, God.
I don't know specifics because I wasn't reading the novels at the time, but I've picked that up from osmosis, just reading TV tropes, if I'm honest. But yeah, the future for Star Wars is potentially very bright with all the new series that there's.
Especially if John Landis and John Favreau, is it Michael Landis?
I think. I forget.
The other guy.
Yeah.
Are in charge now. Like, I would love to see them move on from the series, and maybe between seasons, I guess, do a movie. Please, definitely bring Ron Howard back to do another movie.
Bring Robert Rodriguez back, because he was amazing for last episode.
Oh my God, yes he was.
I can't believe we forgot to mention that in the intro, but Robert Rodriguez directed that, all the actions, all the big action.
It's unexpected because there's no bar fight scene.
But let's be honest, Boba going ham on the stormtroopers is Robert Rodriguez in a nutshell.
Oh yes.
But it's like, but what I would say is, it's fine to work on developing all these series. Don't overdo it. Don't stretch yourself too thin doing it, because then all of them will suffer for it.
Yeah, you will exhaust your fan base, which is exactly what happened with the Star Trek fans by the time Enterprise rolled around, because from Next Generation...
Then Deep Space Nine and Voyager.
And then Enterprise. Now, along with all of the shows going on, you also had all the movies that were coming out also. By the time Enterprise rolled around, the fans were just exhausted. I'll openly admit, I did not watch Enterprise when it was on, because I was one of the fans who was openly exhausted from constantly watching one Star Trek movie after another. Same thing is going on with Marvel Studios, where it was like during I think it was Far From Home, I was a little bit more, I guess, exhausted because it was one Marvel movie after another, and so I'm thinking it's like, well, give your fans a bit of a break every so often, so that way we can,
Yeah. Do you want to avoid fan fatigue that way? Give us a chance to breathe, to digest this stuff. Let the fans talk about it. Help keep that hype going. You did well so far with Mandalorian. It's like by the time season 1 was over, you announced that season 2 was already in development. Which by the end of the season, fans were like, yes, we want more. And you're doing a fantastic job here. We already know that they're working on season 3. But take your time with these series. Make sure that you're giving them the same level of commitment and love that you're giving the Mandalorian. Because we don't want them to... We want Star Wars to be a great thing.
I remember what I had said to you about who I would love to see as a director for at least one episode.
Who?
Because, alright, so he's already directed a couple episodes of The Orville, a few episodes of Star Trek Discovery. And I would love to see his take on Star Wars. Jonathan Frakes.
Yes. And you have mentioned this before, and I think I had the same reaction. It's like, and a part of me wants to see that so I can see the Star Trek nerds start like twitching, because you know that they were twitching when he did a couple episodes of the Orville, because how dare he? That's not really Star Trek.
No,
but seeing the worlds colliding, as it were.
Yeah. I mean, freaking R2-D2 had a cameo in.
They work in so many little subtle references to things. Not even subtle sometimes, but like just dropping in references to get fans being like, oh, I know that thing. Like the TPS reports in this episode when Mayfeld was trying to drag Mando away from the officer, trying to BS their way out of the conversations. Like, we got those TPS reports to go file. And I started laughing my head off because TPS reports from like Office Space.
That's why I didn't get the reference. I have not seen Office Space, so I didn't get that reference. So
add it to the list.
So that went over my head.
But yeah, TPS reports is just, it was one of those things that what's his name's boss in Office Space is constantly coming by his desk for it. So yeah, I'm gonna need those TPS reports on my desk by the end of the day.
Was he in Office Space, or was that just...
That was somebody else.
Okay.
Pretty sure it was, but yeah. Heck, while I'm, you go ahead and talk. I'll look it up real quick. I just closed IMDb, damn it. But go ahead.
But yeah, like, I would love to see. I want to see Knights of the Old Republic get turned into either a series or another trilogy. Because I know, like...
Okay, yeah, no, it wasn't. It was Gary Cole, who played Lumberg.
Okay. Because I know that in terms of Knights of the Old Republic, there was a lot that happened. Like, you had... it was basically the Jedi versus the Sith at that point in time. And granted, I have not really played the games, but I know some of the characters... like the what was it? There was like 3 members of the Sith Order that were working together, but the two. But
I never really played the games either. I know some of what went on in the games, just again through osmosis, TV tropes, etc. But yeah, I think there were like 3 main Sith Lords going on. I don't know that this was where this was on the timeline in terms of the Rule of 2.
This was before the Rule of 2.
There you go.
Because the one who started that, I think it was Darth Bane.
Yeah.
Who was doing that?
I think were the one that even told me it was Darth Bane that did it.
And then Sidious started using that also. So it's like when what was it? When Darth Maul was killed in Episode 1.
Taken out of the equation, at the very least.
So that's when he was starting to take notice of Anakin Skywalker, and that's when he started to like slowly mold him
I have a feeling that Palpatine had his eye on Anakin Skywalker a long time before that. It's just, but it's like once Anakin essentially stepped into the public eye, as it were, that's when he started taking a more active hand in his development. It's like he stuck him there for a reason, sort of thing. Or it depends on how you what your theories are concerning Anakin's birth.
So two of the Sith, I know that of two of those three, it was Darth Nihilus.
Darth Nihilus, yep.
And Darth Sion. Darth Nihilus, I really, really want to see because to basically
he's the one whose helmet is on like the cover of one of the games,
yes,
isn't it? Yeah.
He in one of the games, there was a trap that was set for him on a planet, and he apparently knew that the trap was set for him, and he drained all the Force energy from the planet and killed it, and killed the people who had set the trap for him. I'm like, that's badass and creepy at the same time.
Which is where, one reason why I didn't mind in Rise of Skywalker when Palpatine suddenly starts like draining the life from Rey and Ben Solo, because again, that's something that that guy. He just showed me the picture on his phone there, but I because again I knew something like that had been in the games. It wasn't. To me, it wasn't too surprising, but I imagine to the average moviegoer whose only exposure to Star Wars has been the movies, would probably be like, oh, you're just pulling new powers out of your ass as the plot demands, which, yes. But, to people that knew a little bit more, not so surprising. Just, it's like you kind of need to build up to some of these things, not just throw it out there. But yeah, like, there's so much out there in the Star Wars universe, all these new series that have been announced, and new leadership for Lucasfilm and everything. Like I said, future for Star Wars is looking bright.
Oh yeah, one of the other shows that they mentioned was Bad Batch.
Yes, I mentioned that before. That was what the lead-in to the whole thing, and I think we'd even talked about
from what
back in our Rapcast for season 7 of Clone Wars.
I think so, because I remember saying that that's supposed to take place after the events of Episode 3.
Post Order 66.
Exactly.
And hey, they're the Bad Batch. Maybe their chips aren't working so well.
No, I imagine that's what happened, because I imagine that...
Or, what's his name? The one that they rescued. Maybe his chip was removed.
Or possibly. Otherwise, things probably would have happened.
But regardless, Bad Batch, yes, please.
Or
more work for D. Bradley Baker doing voice work.
God knows the guy needs the work.
Not really. He's a busy guy. Not like Nolan North or Troy Baker busy, but... But yeah, good episode. We're about to go into the season finale next week. Just and I'm looking forward to seeing what we're gonna get.
Oh God! Like I said, I'm honestly hoping that I want that next episode to be just a little bit longer.
Please,
because
there have been some that have been longer, but they've all been, some of the episodes this season have been pretty short. Where's the controller so I can scroll up here? I mean, looking at these episodes, the first episode was like a full hour, but then it down to like 41 minutes, and then 35, 39, then back up to 37, 33, and 38. It's like, I get it, they're making the episodes exactly as long as they need to be, but the season finale this time needs to be longer. Give us the full hour, go over the hour mark. It's not like you have to worry about, it's like, oh, we're not going to be able to get this on TV because of commercial breaks.
I'm calling this right now, but I imagine the stinger for season 3 is going to show Thrawn.
Oh, I hope so. I certainly hope so.
You and I discussed this. I said who I would love to see in the role of Thrawn.
Which refresh my memory. Because I think we discussed this off mic.
We did. I said that I wanted Jason Isaacs for the role of Thrawn. Now, for those of you who don't know who Jason Isaacs is, he played Draco Malfoy's dad in the Harry Potter movies. He was also the captain of Discovery in Star Trek Discovery in the first season. And the guy knows how to play a good villain. Now, for those of you probably going, oh, well, what about the guy who voiced him in the show in Rebels? Well, here's what you can do. You can have him dub over Jason Isaacs' voice. Jason Isaacs can do the physical stuff, while the original voice actor does...
Lars Mikkelsen.
Yeah, Lars Mikkelsen does the voice.
And I'm going to show you the picture of him again. I personally think Lars Mikkelsen could play the part.
He could.
You know, and then you don't have to worry about dubbing over his voice.
Yeah.
Honestly, but I'm of the opinion that if you're going to have an actor portraying a part, face fully visible, it should be them doing the voice.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, it's like the first Hellboy movie. It felt slightly disconnect with Abe Sapien, because you had
Doug Jones
portraying the part physically, but then you had David Hyde Pierce providing the voice.
David Hyde Pierce refused to take a credit role. He said that he wanted to go uncredited because he respected Doug too much.
And I think that's one reason why they just had Doug do the voice, provide the voice as well in Hellboy 2. But nevertheless, it's like in that case they shouldn't have even used David Hyde Pierce's voice, especially if he was going to have that significant a role. If it were like a one-off scene, that's one thing. I could understand that, but he was there the whole movie.
I don't think. No, he didn't come back for Hellboy 2.
No, Doug Jones did.
It was all Doug.
It was all Doug. Yeah.
It's like Doug playing Saru in Discovery. Mm-hmm. You kind of watched.
Yeah.
That episode.
Yeah. I came in partway through one of the episodes you were doing for your solo cast. Which should be up by the time you hear this one. But anyway.
But you saw him playing Saru in that, so you saw how he performed in that.
Yeah.
It's all him.
Yeah. But getting back to my point, it's like if you're gonna have somebody's face visible for a role or makeup or whatever, sure, but like it's them physically in the role. There's nothing like covering their face so you can hide like the mouth moving kind of thing.
Yeah. So
you can avoid the old like kung fu dubbing problem.
So how do you feel about in the live action stuff from Maul about how it's Ray Park Jr. doing the physical crap while the voice actor from who voices Maul in Clone Wars and Rebels dubs over him?
See, it's like, yeah, I've come to associate that voice with Maul, but again, if you're not gonna have that person portraying the part physically in a live action, don't use them then. It's like have the person who's doing the physical work do the voice as well. It's one of those things with me.
Yeah, but the problem is that the guy who voices him in Clone Wars and Rebels does it way too well.
Yeah.
It was way too good.
I agree, but this is just my opinion. You know, they can do it if it comes out well on scene, I'll be happy with it, but there's always going to be a part of me that's just like, yeah, but
yeah. But I mean, I'm looking forward to season 3 whenever it comes
out.
Yeah.
I know.
Well,
we're looking forward to the season finale next week, but
that too, but
season 3, yes.
But yeah,
inject it directly into my veins.
Now it's just like what do you have planned for that? Are you going to introduce Thrawn through that?
I imagine so. Thrawn is not somebody you introduce in one. You drop in one episode and then don't bring him back.
I'm fine with him being in like a stinger.
Yes, stinger. I'm just saying for how significant a name drop he was 2 episodes ago. You don't bring him in very suddenly.
And then just say...
Right, you give him the Moff Gideon build-up.
Yeah.
Moff Gideon, it's like we didn't even know about Moff Gideon until suddenly the client took the call from him in Chapter 7. And then all of a sudden, client's dead. Moff Gideon steps up, and everybody's like, oh, they're fucked now, because this is a guy who doesn't care about his own subordinates, and it's Giancarlo Esposito. You're fucked. Because we all remember Gus from Breaking Bad. Well,
and to be honest with you, I haven't really watched Breaking Bad. I need to.
But other stuff that Giancarlo Esposito has done.
But I get the references too.
Yeah. Same thing should hold true with Thrawn. It's like, if Thrawn shows up, maybe by the end of Chapter 16, Mando and his friends escape with Grogu. They fly off in the Slave One or whatever, leave behind Spaceball 2. And then all of a sudden, Thrawn shows up and maybe a Super Star Destroyer and just shoots Moff Gideon out of the sky. It's just sort of like...
You failed me.
Even though that's not entirely in Thrawn's wheelhouse, Thrawn is not a guy who usually kills people that fail him. He's not like most Imperial warlords that way, or like Darth Vader. But having him sort of be... Maybe he just sort of like, you played your hand too much. You're no longer of any use to me. Or maybe he already has the data that he needs from Moff Gideon's ship, and then just shoots him out of the sky. Then all of a sudden, this guy is dangerous, because if Moff Gideon's scared of him, maybe.
Well, I mean, he did shoot Tom Baker out of the sky in that one episode of Rebels.
Right, but even then, you got the impression that the Bendu just regenerated. Because he was a character that was so goddamn powerful, I doubt even a bunch of turbo lasers would bother him.
So if we ever get another Bendu, should it be voiced by Peter Davison?
Yes. Peter Davison or somebody else, one of the other doctors.
Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy. Hell, Dave.
No, you can bring in David Tennant, Matt Smith.
Definitely Matt
or
Peter Capaldi.
Yes, Peter Capaldi would be good. Or just really piss off the fans and get what's her name, Whittaker. Jodie Whittaker to come in instead. It's Mrs. Bendu. You killed my husband.
Okay, so we're going Princess Bride?
No. But yeah, we've rambled on now. It's almost Ramblecast length now. So yeah, we're obviously very excited. Another good episode. Looking forward to next week. So, anything last you want to add before we...
No, I'm good.
Okay, so for Chris, I'm Jay. We'll see you after the next episode. This is The Way.
Thanks for listening to a Bored to Death Mandocast. Be sure to check out all the episodes of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus and give us a like and subscribe. This is The Way.